Problem 9, 122. Anne is measuring some fabric pieces for a quilt. Use the Pythagorean theorem and your calculator to help her find each of the missing lengths below. Decide whether each answer is rational or irrational. If it is rational, explain whether the decimal repeats or terminates. All right, so let's have a look at A first. You can see that we are given the two legs of the triangle, and we need to determine the length of the hypotenuse, this side right here. So, in order to determine the hypotenuse, we're going to use that Pythagorean theorem like they told us. And remember, the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the legs, it doesn't matter which one I plug in for A, which one I plug in for B. So I'm going to do 32 squared plus 24 squared equals C squared. All right, so let's go ahead at this point. We'll go ahead and put that into our calculator. So 32 squared is going to give us 1,024, and 24 squared is going to give us 576. So if we add those together, that gives us c squared. So we're going to add 1,024 and 576. That's going to give us 1,600. That equals c squared. Now keep in mind, c squared is not that length. Just c is the length. So to unsquare, we're going to take the square root of both of these. That gives us c by itself. Then in your calculator, just take the square root of 1,600. When you do that, you're going to get 40. So 40 is our missing side length. Let's make sure we specify it as 40 inches. So this is our missing side length. Now we also need to determine whether it is rational or irrational. And if it is rational, explain whether the decimal repeats or terminates. So in this case, this is a rational number. And the reason it is rational is because the decimal would come right after the 0 and 40, which means that it is a terminating decimal. So it's rational because the decimal terminates. Remember, terminate is just the more mathematical word for end, so it means the decimal ends. All right, you want to make sure that you have everything I have written down. Then we'll go ahead and have a look at part B. Okay, so for part B, it looks like we are given one leg and the hypotenuse. So remember, the hypotenuse is always directly across from the right angle. So again, we're going to use that Pythagorean theorem and just plug in here. So my leg I can put in for A or B, it doesn't matter, so I'll put it in for A. And I'm going to do 10 squared plus B squared equals 20 squared. So remember, the hypotenuse can only go in for C. All right, 10 squared is 100. So we're going to have 100 plus b squared equals 20 squared. And 20 squared is going to give me 400. All right, at this point, I will subtract 100 from both sides. This gives me a 0 pair. I'm left with b squared equals 300. Now 300 is not the length of my missing side. That's, way too long. It's my missing side squared though. So to unsquare that, we're going to take the square root on each side. That's how we unsquare a square. And go ahead and put the square root of 300 into your calculator. Ooh, it's not going to give us a very nice number. It is 17.320,508.08. And that is where my calculator screen maxes out on digits. So we're going to say that our length for B, we're going to say it is about, so we want to use that squiggly equal sign. We'll say it's about 17.32 meters. And this number, as we know, this is an irrational number. And the reason is if we look at those numbers that come after our decimal, they don't repeat and they don't end or they don't terminate. So if you get to that point where your calculator screen is maxing out on digits, it's an irrational number then. Okay, so once you have B down, we'll take a look at C. And for C here, it looks like they give us, they do give us the hypotenuse and one leg. So we are solving for another leg of a triangle here. All right, so I know that my hypotenuse absolutely has to go in for C. My leg, it doesn't matter whether it goes in for A or B, so I'm going to put it in for A. So 7.6 squared plus B squared equals C squared, which is 9.5, so 9.5 squared. All right, if I put 7.6 into my calculator and square it, I get 57.76 plus B squared equals, all right, 9.5 squared gives me 90.25. Going to subtract 57.76 from each side. That gives me a 0 pair here, so I'm left with B squared equals, we're going to do 90.25 minus 57.76, and that gives us 32.49. Now, keep in mind that is not our side length. That is our side length squared. So to unsquare, we take the square root. And when we do that, that gets B by itself. And we're going to put in the square root of 32.49. And that should give us exactly, actually, 5.7. So B equals 5.7, that's our side length, our leg that's missing. And this is a rational number. And the reason it's rational is because the decimal terminates. And remember, terminate just means end, so it does end after that 7. There are no more digits. It's just 5.7. All right, once you have that all written down, then you are good on problem 9-122.